I put mine, the magnet one.
Good evening, everyone. Today is April 15th, 2019, Monday, normal council meeting that we're having this evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is great to see the big crowd we got here. This is awesome this evening. With that, Jim?
Would you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jim. With that, we've got a fun evening. This is always a kick. We've got several proclamations that I'm going to read. The first one's an Arbor Day proclamation, ladies and gentlemen. Whereas in 1872, Julius Sterling Morton, who became the Secretary of Agriculture under President Grover Cleveland, proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture on a special day be set aside for planting trees. Whereas the resulting holiday, Arbor Day, was the first observed in that state with the planting of more than 1 million trees. And whereas Arbor Day is now recognized throughout the nation and the world, reminding us that one's personal initiative can make a lasting and meaningful difference. And whereas the City of Moscow and the Moscow Tree Commission are committed to a community forestry program that supports a safe, healthy, and attractive urban forest. And whereas trees are a renewable resource that yield fruit and nuts for food and profit, wood for construction, fuel for warmth, paper products, and a wide variety of other goods and materials. And whereas when properly selected, planted in the right places, the tended appropriately trees increase property value, add beauty, enhance economic vitality of business districts, cut heating and cooling costs, and provide barriers from traffic. And whereas trees intercept stormwater, reduce runoff and end erosion, clean air and water, produce oxygen, slows climate change by absorbing carbon dioxide, provides habitat for wildlife and moderate and air temperature. And whereas a healthy urban forest can bring a sense of vibrancy or respite, adventure or calm, escape or contentment, and connection to the wild nature amidst asphalt and concrete. And whereas Arbor Day reminds us of the timeless observation by its founder, J. Sterling Morton, that each generation takes the earth as trustees. And whereas to celebrate Arbor Day in Moscow, the City of Moscow, the Moscow Tree Commission, and Gritman Medical Hospital will host an Arbor Day ceremony highlighting the benefits of trees and health at 11 a.m. on April 26th at the Pearl Bistro located in 803 South Main on the second floor of Gritman's new medical office building. Following the ceremony, an autumn gold ginkgo will be planted a short distance away south of Moscow Family Medicine. Now, therefore, I, Bill Lambert, the mayor of the city of Moscow, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2019 as Arbor Day in the city of Moscow, and I urge all citizens to support the planting of trees to promote the well-being and the future for future generations. With this, I know we got David Rock out here who will receive the. David, you want to come up to the podium, sir? Waiting for the camera. Here she comes. This way? Let's go. Come on.
So we're not in front of you.
Come on, I'm not gonna bite you.
Rabbit ears.
Good. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Good enough. Now, ladies and gentlemen, David's gonna say a few words to us, and you cannot believe how good this guy looks, and he's decked out in senior bonds. So David, if you would like to say a few words? Here's the podium, right, if you wanna come right up here.
Very good. No, I just wanted to again invite everyone to the Arbor Day ceremony. It's the next week, Friday at 11 o'clock. The theme is the health benefits that trees provide. And what better group of people to help present that is the fine folks at the Moscow, or at the fine folks at the Gritman Medical Center. And so we're partnering with them to spread that word and come and enjoy. We'll be meeting again, as the mayor said, in that new medical building. So if you haven't seen that, come check it out. And then a block away, we'll plant a tree. So Thank you again.
Thank you, David. Ladies and gentlemen, that bistro's on the second floor too. I think I mentioned that, but just as a reminder, so that'll be a fun day, David. The next proclamation I have is an Earth Day proclamation. Whereas the first Earth Day was celebrated April 22nd in 1970, and whereas Earth Day originated in the United States and became recognized worldwide by 1990, and whereas all people of the earth from all walks of life have a right to clean water, clean air, and a wholly healthy environment. And whereas humankind currently face tremendous global challenges, including climate change, broad diversity loss, and a need for a better waste solutions, and whereas it is critical to expand and diversify the global environment movements to achieve maximum progress and to defend environmental progress that has been heretofore gained, and whereas it is essential to involve the community in the design and implementation of solutions for pressing environmental issues, and whereas citizens of Moscow value the quality of life, stability, and sustainability, and whereas every year on April 22nd, men and women and children participate in environmental stewardship activities such as stream cleanup, planting trees, educational events, celebrating sustainable accomplishments, and more. And whereas Earth Day is an annual reminder of the constant need for environmental activism, stewardship, commitments, and sustainability efforts. Now therefore, I, Bill Lambert, the Mayor of the City of Moscow, do hereby proclaim Monday, April 22nd to be observed and celebrated as Earth Day in the City of Moscow, and I encourage all of its inhabitants, businesses, and institutions to use Earth Day to celebrate the Earth and to promote the well-being of the inhabitants of the City of Moscow and the protection of the environment. And with that, we should have Kelly Cooper, I believe, is here somewhere. Kelly, are you out there somewhere?
Kyle's gonna do it.
Kyle's here. Kyle will step right on. Okay. Well,
She's usurped his power.
Yes.
I like it.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Kyle. Now with that, and I know there's some folks out here that we got the Mayor's Earth Day Award recipients with us, and I got a big packet here, so we're gonna have a little fun tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll come down there and read these off. Oh, by the way, this is one of my fun evenings to being able to do this stuff, because I can just kind of come up here and speak freely, and it's always a good time, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm glad we got, and I love it when we got an audience here, because you can't get away from me, and the doors are locked. Lori just made sure that happened. So we're good to go. Anyway, I'm going to start off with the category of student, and this student, Ned Casely. And what Ned has done, he was instrumental in researching and designing and securing funding for the University of Idaho Sustainability Center's alternative energy projects, specifically a solar photovoltaic array. So, Ned, are you with us this evening? If you are, come on up. Come on over here, Ned. Let's get a nice picture. I give everybody a chance that gets these rewards to say a few words if they wish, and sometimes people want to and some people don't want to, but I tell you what, I will say this. Usually the folks that do this sort of thing are, they're very instrumental in what they do, and they really don't like to necessarily have the light shined on them, but I'll always give somebody a chance too. So Ned, if you'd like to say anything, you can.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ned. I'm a senior at the U of I studying electrical engineering, and for the past 3 years I've been working on a project with the Sustainability Center on campus. Jeannie Matheson, who's the director of the Sustainability Center, has been my coworker on that project, but I think also Brian Johnson is here in the audience today, and he was a hugely instrumental in working on that project. So the project is a 200 kilowatt solar array on the roof of the IRIC, and we're about 2/3 done with the fundraising for it. So thank you.
Okay, the next category is individual, and this individual, as well known by all of us, certainly in this room, Victoria Seaver. And what Victoria has done, Victoria works closely with government officials to incorporate climate change conditions into the city's comprehensive plan. She follows the city government happenings closely and always working to improve Moscow's sustainability. And with that, Victoria constantly, I know the 6 years that I've been the mayor, she is at every single one of these meetings, ladies and gentlemen, and she should get an award for that, for crying out loud, because sometimes they're exciting and sometimes they're very boring, but with Victoria, she is very, very consistent in what she does, and of course, she's on our planning and zoning commission too, so Victoria, please.
So what I wanted to say was that I was not on planning and zoning when I brought this up to them in public comment, and it really was me asking them to do a little bit of comp plan, or a little bit of climate change response into the comp plan, so it would go along with our smart development, and we'd have a bigger comprehensive picture. And I gave them a sample paragraph with a couple of bullets on it, and you know, I would have been happy with that, but they sent it on to Sustainable Environment Commission, which I'm on, and that turned into a 3-page draft. And then they tweaked it, and we got public input at the open house on the comp plan and at the public comments at the meetings. And it's there now to help make us mindful as we go along of what we're doing and give us an anchor to work from. And the thing is that, you know, come talk to your commissions, because everybody has a public comment period, and we want to hear you, and if there's something we can do, we'll take a look at it. And at the local government level, you really can get something on the burner instead of having it stuck in the fridge under the Jell-O. So come on down and talk to us. Thank you.
Okay, the next category we have is school, and we got Tony Bonicelli. I hope I pronounced that, Tony. Bonicelli. I was within a few steps there, but anyway, Tony is the principal of Moscow Charter School, and here's what they have done there. Grades 4 and 8 have taken on the challenges of recycling plastic film by working with Trex, the world's largest manufacturer of wood alternative products made from recycled plastics. They have opened up this program to the general public, as well as working with other schools, Moscow High School, Moscow Middle School, to expand the collection efforts. And as some of at the time of their nomination in this, they had collected nearly 800 pounds of plastic, which was diverted right out from our landfill, because these things, there's no other source to recycle them here. So Tony, if you'd please come up.
We actually have
I know there's a bunch of students. Okay, well, let's tell you what, let's get all these kids up from Moscow Charter School, and what we'll do is we'll block out the council.
Rabbit ears.
We're going to photobomb this whole thing.
Yeah, we were going to bomb this thing.
You can just Photoshop us out.
Okay, Sage, there's rabbit ears.
Let's switch it over so the award can show.
Let's just have a little bit of a gap.
There you go, great. Oh, perfect. Catherine has to stand still. Okay, smile, 1, 2, 3, and we'll do another, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Absolutely.
I can hardly take any credit for this. This has really been directed by Catherine Bonzo, our fourth grade teacher, and Tracy Hoffmeister. They came with the idea about it, and I just said yes. And so we ended up with, I think Mayor Lambert said a little over 900. We checked today, we're over 1,200. That would be 1,201 pounds, but that's how much we have. So we're over it. And so we're going to continue to do this through our school year, and then possibly see what we can do through the summer to help continue, because we have 8 to 10 community members drop off plastic every day, including our own students and faculty. So it's a really cool thing. I don't even get plastic bags anymore. It's really hard to fill your cart up with nuts, but it's all right. It all works out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. And with that, that brings up a teacher award. And we actually have 2 teachers that are part of this. Catherine Bonzo, who is not only one of the fourth grade teacher at Moscow Charter, but one of our council people. And Tracy Hoffmeister, who is the eighth grade teacher. And so, but before I get into talking just a little bit about them, I want to tell you what a bulldog Catherine Bonzo is. For you that do not know her, she's educated all of us. And one of the things I can tell you is those sleeves you get from your newspapers, pack them in, take them out there, and I don't know how many times that Catherine has reminded us of that. But anyway, it's a big deal. So with that, here's what they did. Both Catherine and Tracy were instrumental in assisting their students in coordinating with Trex to get the recycling efforts going and to get the collected materials to Safeway or Winco for shipment to Trex. Through this effort, they have educated and inspired their students to be the environmental stewards that we need. So, Catherine, if you'll come down here as well as Tracy. Whoop. Sure. Sure. Come on, kids. Come on. Why wouldn't we get these kids up here? This whole, this. Come on, kids. Now, can you get us all in?
Oh, of course I can. Yep. All right, smile. 1, 2, and 3. And 1, 2, 3.
So we've spent a lot of time. I'm Catherine, the fourth grade teacher. Tracy and I've been working together, emptying all the bins with the kids. But the kids know a lot, and so Meredith made up a whole bunch of posters. Did you bring them? I'd love to go right now. She made up posters that she wanted to pass out to you to help educate you. And can you just so this is Meredith Johnson.
Go ahead, squeeze right up there. I'll get as close as you can. This won't go any farther than that. So.
Oh, yeah, they're there. Okay. Is there a lever?
Yeah, there is. Push.
Oop.
Oh.
Okay, step right up
There you go.
young lady.
So read what you read.
So, some of the things that you have to ask yourself before you can recycle things to Trex is it squishy? Is it stretchy? Does it have a 2 in the recycle symbol or a 4 in the recycle symbol?
Recycle symbol. Triangle.
And then, if all of that is true about your plastic, then you can recycle it to Trex. And Trex is just a company that turns recycled plastic into railing and decking material. And you can bring your plastic to Moscow Charter School on East F Street, and then that can help you keep plastic out of landfills.
You know, the fun thing about this, and giving these awards and talking to, having kids like this, part of the, it takes an army and a village, and they're just part of it. And so it's a pretty cool thing, in my view, to see these kids in the education we're doing forward on this. And so it's wonderful. Okay, with the next one, we have a business category, and in that business category, Wasson Carey Construction won this, and what Wasson Carey does is they salvage deadfall, beetle-killed and discarded materials and use a sawmill to create usable lumber, reducing fuel loads in our forests and keeping the wood's carbon content sequestered. They also recycle building materials, promote xeriscaping, promoting building with recycled materials and other notable services. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I have Mr. and Mrs. Wasson Carey. So Doug, if you and your wife would like to come up, please.
One, two, three. One, two, three.
Well, I want to thank everybody that utilizes our business, both in the construction and the recycling, because if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be out there doing it. It's a little muddy right now, but everybody can come out and visit and see what we're doing. We got some new things going. We're real close to retiring from the construction end, but we're going to keep that yard going. So, anyway, I thank everybody.
I know one quick comment on that too, and I seen Wasson Carey's, my neighbor had an old building that was, it needed some loving, tender care, and he was just going to have it tore down, and Doug and his crew figured out a way to get it off his property so they could recycle and reuse it. And those are the kind of things that we need to think about. And so everybody has a little piece of this, a part of this, and that's what a big deal it makes. If we do the whole thing combined, then it makes a difference for all of us. Okay, well, the next category is Green Neighbors, and this is a fun one because we have the Gritman Green Team here, which is pretty cool. And here's what the Green Team does. They were formed in 2017 as Gritman's Green Team, and their focus has been on reducing waste produced by hospital and affiliates by increasing recycling efforts, reducing plastic used, composting, and other divesting food waste from cafeterias, working across departments to encourage more sustainable practices, planting an edible garden to encourage healthy and sustainable eating, and providing education. So with that, could I have the Green Team up here, please?
They need green shirts.
Let's get two on each side. So we got everybody up here. This is it. This is all.
It'll work. All right, one, two, three. And one, two, three. One more.
She's on two.
One, two.
Why, thank you. It's great to be here again. Yay, back to back. My name is Sandy Crooks, and I represent the Green Team as their chair. I just want to say, with the Trex, we also give the plastic bags through our materials company, or through our materials department to the charter school. So you guys are awesome. We're just all about reduce, reuse, and recycle. It's not just recycling. It's a whole, like the mayor said, it's a whole system. It's not just one part. And so as the Green Team, we try and nurture that at Gritman and at Moscow Family Medicine, which we have inherited. So all I can say is thank you, and it's not just one person, it's a whole team, and there are a lot of people in the background making this happen, and, Gritman's awesome, Moscow Family Medicine is awesome, and we are all about the community, all about Trex, and all about the 3 R's. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next Category was nonprofit organizations, and it's my pleasure to talk about the Citizens Climate Lobby here in the Palouse chapter. And the Citizens Climate Lobby, Palouse chapter represented by Matt Cantrell and Mary Dupree, led the effort to help City of Moscow be the first city in the state of Idaho to formally support a carbon fee and dividend resolution. The resolution formally calls on our representatives to adopt a fee and a dividend system for carbon in which carbon is taxed at the source and all taxes collected will be returned directly to the people in the form of a dividend check. And with that, I got to talk a little bit about Mac and Mary, because they were very consistent. I don't know how many meetings I had, especially with Mac. Man, that guy sent me emails you cannot believe. And the good news is, and let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, none of us are too old to get educated on the direction on some of the things we need to do or should be doing all along. And so with that, Mac, would you and Mary come up to accept this award?
We'd like to invite Al.
Okay, come on up, Al.
Involved in a major way before I was involved at all.
Okay.
Sustainable Environment Commission.
Let's get over here and we'll get a picture. This is kind of crunch in.
One, two, three.
Somebody wants to speak?
Yeah.
You want to say? Okay, all right.
Moral support, come on.
Stand behind, come on.
Yeah. Congratulations to everybody else who won an award tonight. This is so fantastic. I know a lot of you, and I know what a community effort working with the environment is. And I want to thank the Sustainable Environment Commission, the city councilors, the mayor, all of you for recognizing that we're basically all in this boat together. And we need to work together. And we need to work on the challenge of climate change. And I want to recognize that we're not alone in doing this, that groups like the Sierra Club and the Palouse Sustainable Environment Coalition are very active, as we are at Citizens Climate Lobby, trying to find positive solutions towards combating climate change. Thanks.
So I'm going to make a plug. One of the things we're working on right now is this weekend, on Friday and Saturday, we've been putting together a climate conference, Bridging the Climate Divide, because it really is going to take people from across the entire political spectrum, and that's the way our group has worked all along. And on Friday and Saturday, we've been putting together a conference for people from Idaho and Eastern Washington. If any of you are interested, on Friday evening, Friday afternoon at 3:30, Steve Gann is going to be giving a public talk at the University of Idaho. He's an extremely well-known climate scientist who will do a good explanation of a lot of what's going on. The resolution that you folks passed, a bill that is basically what you are asking Congress to do, is in Congress right now. It's just opened into the House, going to be going into the Senate. So things are moving along, and it's things like what you guys are doing that's making a difference, that's causing things to really happen. On Saturday, the conference is going to be from 8:30 to 5:30. If any of you are interested, in the 1912 Center. We're going to have speakers from around the U.S. and farmers from this region talking about agriculture, large-scale farmers, health effects by health professionals from Washington, and a lot of conversation about how we can just continue building the momentum we're all building toward making real changes in terms of carbon pollution. So I just want to thank you all. Thanks very much.
So yes, once again, thanks to the council for supporting this resolution. The bill in Congress, which would be a carbon fee and dividend, would be a huge step in addressing our climate pollution.
But I just wanted to remind people that, as we all heard last fall, the National Climate Assessment and also the IPCC both told us that we need to reduce carbon pollution by 50% by 2030 and 100% by 2050. And the carbon fee and dividend will certainly go a long ways towards that. But we need to make all kinds of efforts to achieve that goal. It's really going to be quite an effort. And one of the things that municipalities are doing, such as Boise, Idaho just last week, is committing to a 50% reduction in carbon pollution for their community by 2030 and 100% by 2050. And I think all municipalities, whether it be counties, cities, states, need to consider that, and hopefully we'll be able to pursue that here in Moscow in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, Mac, and Al. And I got to tell you, one of the things, Mary Dupree is one of the most gracious women I've ever met, because and one of the most persistent too. And anyway, we had some wonderful conversations, Mac and her and I, in my office. I don't know how many different times, but it was a good time, and it was, of course, a learning experience to me. And I take learning very seriously, because it's, after all, you're never too old, and it doesn't matter who you are. All of us out there have got things that we need to learn as we move forward in our life and our journey through life. But with that, I've got one more award, and this happens to be one of our city departments, and it's our Parks and Rec Department Facilities Group. And the nominee was the Parks and Rec, and what they have done in the facility over the course of the last 2 years. Jay Lewis and his team have upgraded several city buildings with LED lighting, which has reduced the city's energy and while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions. In addition, key upgrades to the Hamilton Low Aquatic Center, including the security and deck lights and the boiler and the pool heater, have further reduced the city's energy use for both electricity and natural gas, while having the added benefit of reducing operating costs. And the security and deck lights were upgraded to LEDs and now use less than half the energy that the old lights used to use, while the boiler is estimated to be at least 5% more efficient. So with that, is Jay Lewis here? Jay, come on up, Jay. This is one of the guys who just gets stuff done around the city. Hey, talk, or come on out here, Jay.
Well, as the mayor said, this is, it's much bigger than I am. I do have a good group of guys that work for me, as well as, I'd just like to say, this is, way I look at this is more of a team award for the city of Moscow, because there are a lot more efforts going on as far as fuel usage, tons of energy conservation going on within the city. So I'd just like to thank the council administration for getting behind all of our efforts to move forward with this. And I'd also like to thank Avista for, they provide a lot of opportunities for us to move forward with these projects, make them feasible for us. So thanks.
Like I said earlier this evening, it's always fun to this is fun stuff to talk about, because we have people that are very, very serious about doing this, and you've seen a different spectrum of different groups throughout the city, and like I said earlier, it takes a whole village, an army of people to make things happen. So with that, please give everybody a round of applause as a part of this, ladies and gentlemen. And one thing I will say, you're all welcome to stay to the rest of the council meeting, or we'll take like 5 minutes and let those folks that have kids here and want to get home or go on to other things. You're sure welcome to do that, but we will unlock the doors. So those of you that don't want to hang out with us the rest of the evening, enjoy yourself, and thanks again, everybody.
You're letting our audience go.
Well,
Somebody wants to see the housekeeping?
Oh, God.
The lot line divisions.
Thanks for coming.
Fascinating.
Should have saved the awards till the end.
Making them stay.
We'd have probably got a lot better TV ratings, because everybody'd just be watching TV until
Just
the awards
waiting,
came and then
waiting.
running over.
It's like getting stuck with the Oscars waiting for Best Picture.
Yeah.
What we put it at the end?
She's doing okay. She's getting it together, which is really good. Hey, Sam.
Look at him. The hardcores are still here.
Yeah, just.
I'm talking about you, Victoria.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming by.
drifters and the
See you
dregs.
tomorrow.
Victoria.
Sounds like there's a song in there somewhere. If there isn't, somebody should write it. The Drifters
Have you ever
and
seen the
Dregs.
movie Tombstone?
Oh, yeah.
I've been taking pictures too.
Okay, with that, Bill, you might want to pull that door shut. Folks are visiting out, if you would,
Clan
please. And
brothers
we'll,
have taken it over, and so none of the good clientele will come in anymore. And
Herb and Doc
bartenders-
Holliday.
And the bartender's like, well, nobody will come in here but the drifters and the dregs. Yeah, no.
I still think there should be a song in there.
I could, yeah,
I think we should put one together.
all right.
okay, ladies and gentlemen, now that I resume my composure, and that was a fun event that we just got done having. We'll move on to the rest of the agenda, and then with that next is the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Art and a second by Jim to approve the consent agenda as is. I'll start the roll call with Catherine.
Hi.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 2, staff recognition report. Gary, what do we have this evening, sir?
So we have a couple of awards that were awarded to folks in Parks and Rec, so I'd ask Dwight Curtis to come to the podium. Our Director of Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Dwight.
Good evening.
Do you have a picture
It
of
wasn't
that
for
yet?
me. I just wanted to show you what that was.
Now admit it isn't yours.
Yeah,
Is that the Oscars, the Parks and Rec? or-
it is. And I had an extra copy just for my desk made, so. No, I'm sorry. This is so much fun. This has been a fun night already. But as director of our department, this is always one of the more fun things that I get to do, and that is when I get to give the kudos. The city is just full of really outstanding employees, and I wouldn't put anybody above anybody else. But tonight's not about all of them. It's about Kristen Graham. She is our administrative assistant, and she was, just this last week, recognized by the Idaho Recreation and Parks Association as the outstanding support staff for the state of Idaho in the field of parks and recreation. It's a big state, and there's a lot of people that could have fit this, and so it was quite an honor to get this through. Kristen's been with us with the city about 13 years. 6 of that's been with our department, but you know, she fills roles around the office, from everything from human resources to accounting. She's a tour guide. She runs the front office operation, which everyone knows is the heart of any operation. She's the go-to person for most anything. She has the full pulse on what's going on, not only within our department, but pretty much throughout the whole city. She's a past recipient of Champs Awards with the city for her customer service. She's an occasional therapist. Okay, not occasional. Normally, she's our therapist. She's a magician and really just a true miracle worker. And she couldn't be here tonight, but I still wanted to give her recognition for that. And she let me borrow this so you could see what it looked like. And that's what she received. So that's that one, and then
Let me say something about Kristen real quick. Dwight, and you're right, we've got lots and lots of great employees throughout the entire city, but she's one of those people that just make things happen. We have dedication to park openings and things like that. She's part of making sure things are there and helping with it. I've seen her, I don't know how many different times at all these different functions that we have. And she's one of those people, ladies and gentlemen, that just gets things done. And she doesn't take any glory for it. She just does it. And that is huge when you have people like that step forward. I just wanted to mention that. I would have done it, Christian probably would have been embarrassed to death because she's modest. But
It's an understatement.
anyway, it's the truth. So go ahead and continue, Dwight.
All right, thank you. And then also, we have Damon Burton. He's not a staff member, but he's on our Parks and Recreation Commission. And kind of along the same lines, there are a lot of really super people that fill our commissions. And this is volunteer time. I mean, they're putting in a lot of time, just like the city council, putting in a lot of time outside of their work and families, and that's what makes us work as well. And so Damon was recognized for his 30 years on our commission, on the Parks and Recreation Commission. That's a long time. That's longer than I've been alive. So
Now, don't stretch the truth.
give or
Dwight.
take a year maybe. So anyway, with 30 years, of course, he was chair of the commission for several years, and through 30 years is a long time. A lot of things happen. We've had a lot of parks open. We've had the Hamilton Indoor Rec Center, the Hamilton Low Aquatic Center. Just lots and lots of facilities like that. And he was part of all the planning of all those. The Pathways Commission, he was actually part of that back when it was a task force. He spent 5 years on the task force as well. And so anyway, he said that, he was going to stay on the commission until he got certain things done, and to include the new ball fields, and that finished his list. But instead of retiring, he's building a new list. So we'll get to see Damon for a lot more time. He's also been part of the development of 3 master plans for the department as well. So with that, they gave him a similar plaque like this. And anyway, we wanted to recognize him for that. And so that's what I have.
Yeah, that's pretty neat, because Damon, I've known him for years and years, and I've not known him not having something to do with Parks and Rec. I mean, just for years and years, so.
He's in the thick of everything.
Give him our appreciation, and first time I see him, of course, I will as well.
All
So
right.
thank you, Dwight.
Well, thank you.
Anything else, Gary?
Nothing further tonight, Your Honor.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 3, which is mayoral appointments, and I have none this evening. So lead us right in item number 4, public comment, mayor's response period. This is where we allow folks to tell us what's on their minds, as long as it is not on this evening's agenda or in front of the Board of Adjustment or Planning and Zoning. So we give you 3 minutes, state your name, and please let us know what's on your mind. Okay, well, we'll move forward then with the Citizens Commission report, Planning and Zoning, Mike Ray, and Wendy McClure. I seen her back there behind, she was kind of behind Brian Nickerson, which anybody can hide behind that guy. But I seen her, and so. Come on up, Wendy.
Well, thank you, Your Honor, council members. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce Wendy McClure, the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I think it goes without saying just the tremendous job that Wendy does and the amount of years that she's put in that position, and just lends a certain expertise, being an architect, to planning and zoning, which is, I think we all benefit from, and just keeps us always learning with continuing education, and just does a great job, and I can't speak any highly of her. So with that, certainly turn it over to Wendy.
Thank you.
Evening, Wendy.
I always have to get a lesson from you, Mike. That one? Oh, okay, we got it. Yeah. Okay. Well, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Bill Lambert and council. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about our activities this year. Before I do, though, I'd like to thank several people. One, Ann Zabala, for getting us through 2018, and Brandy Sullivan, our council representative, as a liaison for 2019. And of course, our staff support is steadfast and incredible, and that's Mike Ray and Ann Peterson, so both of those people in particular. In terms of our membership pretty much everybody on there has been on there for at least a year, so the only thing we're missing is somebody to represent the area of city impact. Kurt had to move on to Arizona and wasn't going to be in town enough, so if you know anyone who wants to represent the area of city impact, we're looking for somebody to fill that slot. And hopefully I've got this, whoops, no, that's the pointer. Okay, there we go. So talking about a few recent and current projects, one of our, I can say from the standpoint of an architect, one of the most useful things we did this year was to convert portions of the zoning code from narrative to table format. It puts everything on one page. I was used to that in other jurisdictions, and it's great to have it in Moscow, in our zoning code. And we restructured sections for ease of use. We converted most of the commercial uses to the North American Industry Classification System, and that was very helpful. It's a standard used by the United States and other countries to classify business establishments. And it's consistent and clear in its definitions of uses, which is also very helpful. And with that, we also inserted some illustrations to better communicate requirements, and we'll give you some examples. Here's the land use table, so there you go, all the zones in the city and what's permitted by right and by conditional use or not permitted is right there on one page. So that was, and we experimented, and Mike was very patient. He kept coming back with new iterations to make it clearer and clearer with the graphics. So he's got a lot of graphic talent. I found this out also from support he gives us on the Historic Preservation Commission as well. But anyway, also things like how do you explain to somebody what how a flagpole lot works and how the front yard setback works. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and so these types of illustrations support our revisions as well. So our big project, as you probably remember, is updating the comp plan, basically from 2009, excuse me, tweaking some of the language and soliciting participation from other commissions, like you heard about the Sustainability Commission, Sustainable Environments Commission, we're talking about climate change, updating some of the sections in the code, in the plan. And after 2 years, of going through it twice or 3 times maybe, we had a public open house in October, and it came forward to you all in March. So we have adopted it. So mission complete, I hope, for a while. Although it's an ongoing document that's a living document, really. In terms of the area of city impact, there was an effort to work with Latah County to renegotiate the area of city impact and to update the ACI agreement with up-to-date zoning code language from our comp plan. And they've been waiting for that for a while. The only thing we really retained from the ACI, the county's zoning was ag forest in that particular area. And that effort was approved by the council in February. So, and then now our current project is, one of our current projects is working on the subdivision code to try to update it. So we've been restructuring the existing code and relocating it into the zoning code. That's sort of moving things around, but also, and it includes lot line adjustments and subdivision plats. But the more exciting part really is looking at 2 other options by right, which would be, we're kind of defining what those are and what their parameters will be, but cluster subdivision option and a traditional subdivision option by right to complement what we already allow. So we're studying a lot of what that means right now in terms of how we put the elements together. And we had a request from a property owner to increase or eliminate the 6-month stay on RVs within the city limit. So we're currently reviewing that request and to see where that will lead. And looking Most recently, last week, we were looking at different types of RVs, because there's probably 20 types of RVs. What does an RV really mean? And is it appropriate as a place to live permanently? So those are things we're looking at. Revising the manufactured home park code to allow different affordable housing options, including tiny homes. We've had some requests for tiny homes as well, and so looking at how that might fit in to those settings. Let's see, so you handed this down to us at the last meeting. And we're looking at educational services, and we've gone by, it's the NASAD, NIACS, I always say the wrong thing, I'm sorry, definition, so that it turns out there's a lot of little pieces to educational services beyond just universities and colleges, so we're picking it apart a bit right now and looking at it. And also, I guess in the future or soon, we'll be looking at short-term rentals and what type of policies we might recommend from that. And can you think of anything else? Not right now? Okay, any questions?
Questions for Wendy?
Well, yeah, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So go back to the slide where you said that we had asked you all to look at the educational services, but we did craft a particular thing to look at, not all of the educational services. Right?
But it comes, well, do you want to explain why we're looking at it all? Because it's, you did, that's true. But we felt that we needed a rationale really for looking at all educational services just to understand the differences. So it's somewhat of an educational process for us, but before we can really, develop the changes in the code, we need to understand what it encompasses. So there's, what, about 20 subcategories or more?
Yeah, there's just a number of subsectors within the educational services sector. And we have the direction from you as far as colleges and universities and junior colleges. But there's also other uses such as elementary and secondary schools, trade schools, some instructional schools, classes like karate, gymnastics, things of that nature that they're also going to be taking a look at as well, just because they're under educational services.
But we had that conversation about all those.
Well, Catherine, from a standpoint from P&Z, though, they can, in all fairness, they can take a look at all of it. And I think what Wendy is suggesting about them taking it as a group and looking at the whole thing is a smart way to do it. That way you're not singling out specific people for some reason. It will be a broad-based thing. Doesn't mean that it won't end up the way it was desired or whatever as a council looks at it. So
It's really having some sort of premise or rationale by understanding what educational services as an entity encompasses, because it's a lot of different uses, and so we wanted to be educated on being able to say, well, why do you allow Mr. Lands, but you don't allow,
Right, I understand that, and I
yeah.
appreciate what you're saying, and I understand that, but I thought we had already done all that, and that's why we gave particular direction on certain educational services. I'm just asking for clarification because I thought the direction was to
Right.
not have to resort all that.
Well, a
based on
showstopper
survey.
for us was looking at elementary and
Your Honor, if
secondary
I may.
schools.
Oh, Gary?
This isn't an action item. It wasn't on the agenda for discussion. It was merely a report. So
Okay.
I think if the council would like to discuss that further, then it would have to be noticed on an agenda.
Right, and I'm not trying to do anything but get clarification, and she asked for questions.
understand.
And though it's
Right.
not on an agenda item,
Right.
I'm trying to get clarification because you went into speaking about the umbrella of why you all are looking at the whole area of educational services.
Right, I mean, to understand the differences, between all the categories that fall under that title,
Okay.
so. Okay,
Any other
any other
que-
questions?
Wendy, thank you very much. She's the chair of not only P&Z, but also Historic Preservation Commission, which is awesome as well. She wears several different hats, and I know that Art was a long-term P&Z guy for a decade. I was on there for 5 years. I don't know how long Jim was on there, but we appreciate what what P&Z does and all the efforts they do. And frequently, I think sometimes those that are not on there, haven't been with, they really don't realize there's an extensive amount of work that you're doing on that. So thank you for your service.
Well, we have staff that keeps us active, too.
Well, you'll always have things to do. There's no doubt about that, Wendy.
Yeah, right. No, it's fun to serve on it. I think we have a good group of commissioners, and we just need to fill that ACI slot.
Well, I'm
and we'll
working
be-
on that too,
Yeah.
by the way. I've got a couple of people that
But,
I'm working on.
And we've also had really effective council representation as well, so we appreciate it all.
Ann, did you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to say I loved being your liaison. I think the commission does a wonderful job, and I think it's even indicative, you ended with the short-term rentals piece, which I didn't know y'all were planning to discuss, but I think even that's a really good example of how forward-thinking you are, because I think it's going to be a really hot topic in the next couple of years, and I just appreciate all the work that you do. You too, Victoria.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll move on to item number 6, which is the Moscow Volunteer Fire Department Annual Report. We have Chief Nickerson with us. Hello, Chief.
Good evening.
How are you
Mayor.
doing?
Great. Council. Thanks. Good evening, everybody. We might as well keep it a little exciting, I guess. It's always a pleasure to be here and provide this report. And it's very important that, as many have said before, it takes a village. I think that's what the mayor said earlier. It takes a village, and this is no different. Our organization is no different. We have quite a few members that go way above and beyond. So, again, this is statistics from last year, 2018, January through December, with a little sprinkle of a call that we've had recently. So, 2018, this is just kind of an overview chart. 75% of our calls is roughly rescue and emergency medical. I'll give you the definition here in just a minute on some of these. But basically, rescue and emergency medical is just that, motor vehicle accidents, EMS calls at somebody's home or out on the street and so forth. Fires, you can see we had 3.6%. False alarms, 9%, and we're going to address the false alarms in a slide a little bit later. Hazardous conditions, again, we'll define that at 2.2%. So, some examples: hazardous conditions can be like a gas leak, power line down, or ballast overheated. We've had several of the ballast because of some of the changes that are made from the current to the LED models, and some of the ballasts are not set up for that. So they create problems, and we've had several very small fires based on those, so in particular over at the university. So they have done a fabulous job over at the university to kind of get a handle on that. So service calls, water problems, smoke removal. Obviously last week we've increased a few calls after the rain and so forth last week. Good intent means basically we were dispatched to a call. However, we were either disregarded before we got there or some other reason. Authorized burning, it is burn season now in the city, so until the 28th. We won't get a whole lot of unauthorized, but we will get authorized because people will call. And then a special incident is basically somebody has a complaint that we go check out. Maybe it's a building code issue or whatever, but it generates a call because somebody did call. So that's just kind of a breakdown. It goes into more detail, but it's a pretty lengthy list. 2018 instances, this breaks it down as the number. On here we've had 81 fires. Again, that's kind of a range of, could be a cooking fire, which we do have several of. Believe it or not, there are folks that tend to leave the pizza in the box and put it in the oven. It's a training issue. Microwave, some people put microwave or popcorn in a microwave for 30 minutes rather than 3 minutes. It's been known to happen because it's unattended. So the 81 seems like a very large number, but we have had several significant fires this last year. And again, a breakdown, 1,600, a little over 1,600, almost 1,700 rescue and emergency medical calls. So overall, we did 2,253 calls for the year last year. You see the bottom number, which is pretty significant, at least for us as our operation goes. And that's 655 calls out of those 2,253 are back-to-back on top of each other calls. Now, keep in mind that that's not just maybe one more call, that could be 2 or 3. It's not uncommon for us to, have 2, 3, 4 calls at a time. So we're out on another call, we're gonna be stacking up to get, calls on top of each other. So that overlapping could be 1 call or 2 or 3 more. False alarms, I know before I arrived here 4.5 years ago, there was an ordinance put in place about being able to ticket people or nuisance and so forth. This year, or last year, we had 204 false alarms. The previous year, we had 266, and we didn't issue any tickets. And we look at the tickets as more of a, it's there if we need it. However, a majority of people really do try to work on things. A lot of it is somebody cooking and something, maybe a smoke detector's in the wrong place. So we help them and try to, hey, you need to move that to make this not be a problem for you down the road. So we try not to issue tickets unless we absolutely have to. But you can see a drop off, of those type of calls. Investigations, I threw this in there for this year just because of some of the challenges that we had. In August and September, as most everybody knows, it's been in the paper. We've had some suspicious fires, the most recent one on March 9th of this year, in the same location, probably within 100 yards of each other. There's nothing that says that there's anything connected to each other. However, we're still investigating it. In the last line there, the partnership and collaboration with the Moscow Police Department, I can't state enough, Chief Fry and the detectives and even the patrol folks that come out and help us, everything that we do every day. But the fire investigation piece has been such a big deal to be able to do it in-house between our department and the police department. It creates a good relationship and kudos to the police department as well. So, but we're going to continue to look, and we'll hopefully find an answer. Incidents by month, similar to the year before. You can kind of see we don't totally peak during certain months just because the students are back or the high school's in or out of session or based on the time of year. There's little peaks and valleys, but it's pretty consistent throughout the entire year. Day of the week, again, pretty consistent almost every year. Sundays is a little bit slower day. Maybe it's football day or something. I'm not for sure, but again, it's one of those things that it's pretty relatively flat comparatively to some numbers in some areas. Time of the day, now that's a little bit different. Most of our calls basically range from 9 a.m., 9 p.m. if you want to look at peaks. So that's kind of that 12-hour period, which is kind of interesting, being in a community like we are in a pretty significant, type community, along with having the university and so forth. During the day is our busier times, so it's really kind of interesting. A lot more traffic, so we haven't figured out an absolute of why certain months, times, days, and so forth. Inspection-wise, we did 305 inspections in 2018, which is doubled of what we did the previous year. Dan's doing a great job with our inspections, and we're tracking them much better this year and than our last year, I should say. And then we've made a few modifications going forward too, so it's going to get even better. So you'll see 23 re-inspections. That just means that out of all those, he actually had to go back twice because maybe there was some significant issue that we needed to make sure that they got corrected in a timely manner. So, but most everything is getting done in a pretty timely manner. The types of inspections that we're doing currently is assemblies, which is restaurants, gathering places, et cetera, mercantile, places of business. Residents, which includes apartments, which the only thing we're looking at on apartments is basically the exterior for access and also fire extinguishers, make sure they're working. If they do have alarm systems, usually the maintenance guy will be present, and we'll check those just to make sure they're working. Fraternities and sororities, we do those twice a year. And then regular business offices, some of these get filtered in as we got time, but the main ones are, we do alcohol licenses for the city, so anything that serves alcohol within the city, we go out and inspect as well. So, which is a great tool for us. It gets us in to do pre-plans and so forth. So, events, We do over 100 events, 150 events a year for both EMS and fire. That's everything. It includes fire drills, event standbys, which that's football games, basketball games, you name it, we're requested. And we do those on a regular basis, almost weekly. We do fire prevention, obvious activities in October. Ambulance standby, we have an ambulance at the football games every year. We started a few years ago doing a partnership with the University of Idaho. Actually, we developed a command post on site. And this year, they've provided us an opportunity to be in the press box. So we actually have our own box for all the events that go on, as long as that space allows for viewing or what we need. Otherwise, we'll move to another space. But they've provided that to us, and it's us, the police department, emergency management, University of Idaho, event services, all those are in the same spot. And what that does is it provides an opportunity for us to communicate without having to go find somebody, find a phone number, call them on the radio. We're all in the same room, so we can dispatch somebody in a matter of seconds rather than a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So, and that proved itself last year because we did have a cardiac arrest at the football game. And that proved itself, and just to have people in that same room together to talk and so forth. So, again, it's steps in the right direction. Public relations, education, that's going out and doing any talk, any school. We get a lot of requests for just Boy Scouts coming to the fire station, take a tour. They get their merit badge and so forth if they come and do a little fire prevention stuff. So, also we're still doing team escorts, and that basically is the University of Idaho football home games. And then all of the high school events that, as long as they go to state, we will escort them to the city limits, whether it's north or south. And usually I get on the bus and tell them the only way I'm going to escort you back is if you win. So I will get up at 2 a.m. and come meet you at the city limits to escort you back to the school. But you got to win to get that reward. So we haven't had it yet, but that's okay. And they work hard. So again, it's great for our community. It's great for the kids. I have heard nothing but positive feedback. And matter of fact, can't you bring more trucks? So it's all kinds of stuff. Projects, we're still working, and thanks to Gary and Jen that we're working on the volunteer strategic plan. We're making a lot of progress. We ups and downs, but we are making some significant strides forward. So I think we're going to have a pretty good document by the time we're done. It's going to take a little while longer, but we've had some great conversations, which is phenomenal to me. So. Completed the specifications, ordered and arrived. The new engine right down there in the bottom right. That's a picture of it, which obviously it's exactly like the one that you see that we had last year. It was a great trip to go see it and see how they're built and so forth. So we really appreciate the council and everybody supporting what we do. We have all of our staff, as of actually a year and a half, 2 years ago, we have everybody in totally compliant fire personal protective equipment for your fires. We were out for a while, and then through attrition and planning in the budget and buying so many each year, we're on a replacement cycle now of nobody should be without a date of gear anymore. Which is a nice thing to have.
You had me wondering, it says complaint up there.
Oh, it's a typo. It's a typo. Thanks, Art.
You're welcome.
I didn't change it from last, no. Recruitment and retention of volunteers and resident program, again, we're always trying to recruit. So obviously if anybody ever knows somebody that wants to come and volunteer, they're more than welcome. They just did onboarding tonight for some of the ambulance folks, so kind of a neat thing we're doing. Our resident program this year will be full house plus one. Because we have one person leaving in December. So this fall we'll have actually 25 rather than 24 students. The group did not want to turn away the one extra person, so which says a lot about the group that we had. It was hard. Volunteers moving forward with the remodel of Station 1. I can tell you I had a meeting this morning that as of April 29th, that down at Station 1, the city staff is going to be moving up to max room upstairs in our meeting room, at least 2 of them, and then the training officer will move to Station 3 in the interim. and they're doing a total remodel of the first floor in the office area, kitchen. Also the upstairs, kitchen's gonna be totally redone. And then also all new doors on all their dormitory doors, which has been significantly needed to be done, so. A lot of good stuff. Fire One program, for the high school, we're still working through that. I got a note with or meeting with Mr. Bailey coming up. And hopefully we can finalize that and do that this fall. So it'll be a 0 hour and a 1 hour class. So it'll be 700 or 0700 in the morning till 9:20. And then we're also working with LCSC to offer an associate's degree through here at Moscow, the fire program parts up here in-house. So that way the students don't have to travel back and forth to Lewiston. So we'll be able to teach most of that in-house. So it'll kind of save time and provide other opportunities for them. And then I would like to thank you. I know I forwarded an email from Big Canyon Fire District, Chief Moss. But again, I think looking out for our neighbors and people around our area that could use something, I think is a big benefit, goes a long way for them. I can tell you that they use their SCBAs. I taught at Orofino about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they used their SCBAs at the academy. So they're so on board. It's a great thing to see and stuff. So great opportunity, and I thank you all for providing them that opportunity. So it's great to see somebody local use it. So training, we train and put things out all the time. So online training, we had a fall class. Some of the trainings we do, multi-company, EMS, EMT, paramedic. We averaged over 9,500 hours of training last year, which is right on average of what we do. And then this past year we did what's called Blue Card training, which is a online training course through the previous retired chief of Phoenix, Alan Brudicini, and his boys created this program, online 50-hour program. And since we have done it, what it does is gets consistency on incidences to common terminology, so we're all talking the same language rather than kind of our own words, so to speak, but we're redefining things. And I can tell you, since we've implemented that, like within the first 6 months, it's changed the world so significantly. It's just online training. And so now we're practicing it and doing it more. So we're going to continue to build on that over the next year or two. And we've just gotten a whole lot. We've made so many significant improvements. So it's a great tool. Last thing is, for those that don't know, Assistant Chief Fire Marshal Joe Williams is going to be retiring on June 1st. So we're going to provide, we'll have a little get-together for him once he agrees to how big of a thing he wants to do. But Joe's Joe, so I'm kind of letting him figure out what he wants to do, if he wants to do it here in the council chambers or at Station 3 or something. So, but we'll do it as a little send-off, just like we do everybody else. The location will be determined. So, but we'll work with Joe and see what he wants to do. He's put a lot of years in, a lot of effort. So, and that's kind of what I shared with him is you've earned it. So, we'll make it a biggest party as you want. So, hopefully we'll do that. Any questions?
To the report, Brian, questions for Brian? Ann?
Yeah, if you could go back to I think it was Blue Card training.
Sure.
I just missed, who takes the training?
That's command officers. So
Gotcha.
that is like myself, Joe, Debbie Scott, which is the career staff, and then all the volunteer command officers, the 4 battalion chiefs and 3 captains.
Thank you.
So we just send that out and they just log on and we get to watch, hey, the progress and stuff, make sure people are doing it. But yeah, it's been a good tool. It's really amazing. It's a little bit better than I thought. I've been through it years ago before I got here, but it's really, it amazes me how well they accepted it and it's changed.
Great.
So, which is a testament to those guys.
Other questions for Brian?
Yeah, I just wanted to find out, are you having more people volunteer at the different levels? Remember, not everybody wants to be a firefighter,
Right.
EMT, but you were interested in trying to recruit people to be more like support parts of that?
They just passed, was it last Monday? I think last Monday, a support auxiliary, the rules for it. So they've got a few people they're trying to capture and and get within that on different levels they can participate and so forth, so.
Will that training be part of the high school class? I mean, can you have different levels?
You can. The high school level is going to be a pretty significant impact for them because they're going to be offered to come and ride. So they'll actually do a ride-along program with us. Won't be mandatory as part of the class. It's kind of hard to mandate something outside of the school system. So you know that. So without it being a sporting event or something, it's kind of hard to try to, hey, you got to do 10 ride-alongs throughout the year. It's kind of, we're going to leave it up to them, but they'll have to schedule it and so forth. So that's a lot of opportunities for them. And once you get them on a fire truck, then it's hard to get them off. So that's going to be the hard part. But it's good. It's a good problem to have. And it's good opportunities for some of these kids. And you see folks nowadays touting, you don't necessarily have to go to college. You can go to trade school, and this is just one more avenue for that if you want to do that. So it's up to the individual.
Thanks.
Okay. Other questions for Brian? Good report, Brian. Thank you very much. And of course, thanks for the volunteer fire department. You guys did a
Absolutely.
good job there. And
They're awesome.
keep up the awesome work.
They are awesome.
We look forward to another good year. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 7, which is a public hearing on the flood hazard area ordinance. Michael Ray will present that.
Thank you again, Your Honor, council members. So before you tonight, we have a public hearing, and this is to update our flood hazard area chapter of the zoning code, which is chapter 5. Just to orient, we have 2 100-year floodplains, special flood hazard areas within the city of Moscow, Paradise Creek, which runs diagonally through the city. You also have the South Fork of the Palouse River, which is primarily within the county, but does touch on some portions of city limits to the south of Palouse River Drive there. We are, I guess one item of note is that we had submitted a letter of map revision request, and it's likely that we'll hear back from FEMA in the next couple months in order to remap this portion here towards the south couplet. So that's a positive for the community to have the floodplain retracted within that area as that area begins to redevelop. So looking at Chapter 5, really provides the regulations for all development within the 100-year floodplain, also known as the Special Flood Hazard Area. So it provides us with methods for reducing flood loss, and then also goes through the responsibilities and duties of the floodplain administrator, which is also happens to be the zoning administrator for the city and our department. Also has an appeals and variance process for floodplain development. And then there's standards for new or substantial improvements to residential or non-residential construction. So we handle residential as well as commercial development. So looking at, so we had a major overhaul in 2015. We went through FEMA, and they have the authority through the National Flood Insurance Program, who we're a participant of. So every federally backed flood insurance for all structures within the city of Moscow. If you have a mortgage that's federally backed, you're required to carry flood insurance nationwide. So because of things that we do, in addition to the minimum requirements, we've earned a 10% citywide reduction in flood insurance rates. So everybody that has a mortgage that's required to carry flood insurance enjoys that 10% reduction just because of some of the things that we do as a city. And National Flood Insurance Program requires that we maintain certain minimum requirements to be a part of the program. And the last major overhaul, like I mentioned, is in 2015, Idaho Department of Water Resources, which really serves as the liaison between the local communities and FEMA. Ended up going throughout the state and reviewing a number of ordinances. I think there was somewhere around 50 ordinances that they reviewed. And they work with communities to meet these minimum requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program, but they can only make recommendations to FEMA as to what a community should or should not do to be compliant. So we went through, and it was really our major overhaul, and that was subsequently updated in 2015 and approved by IDWR. There was a lot of standards that needed to be updated or added. We had a lot of definitions that needed to be added that we didn't have, and definitions that needed to be revised. And multiple references to state codes, which had subsequently moved sections, so we needed to update those. Some map numbers for our flood insurance rate maps needed to be updated. We really didn't have a variance and appeal procedure within our ordinance at that time, so that was inserted, as well as updated manufactured home standards and lowest floor elevation standards. So that brings us to 2019. Late last year, we were contacted by FEMA Region 10, which is over in Seattle. They cover the whole Northwest region, that they had recently updated their model ordinance for minimum NFIP requirements. They ended up conducting a review of Moscow's ordinance, even though it was just overhauled in 2015, and they determined that it was compliant, but there were a few areas that we need to go ahead and update, mainly some housekeeping items within the ordinance. We really just had some definitional changes, really minor changes within the definition section, and then there's some minor language changes throughout. You know, small things like references to ordinance in one section and chapter in the other. So really just a whole lot of housekeeping. There wasn't really any substantive changes. It was mainly just, you know, tweaking some language to update it to NFIP requirements. So that's really what this update is about. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did conduct a public hearing, happened on March 13th of this year, and they recommended approval of the ordinance as presented to council. And staff's recommendation would be to conduct the public hearing and approve the ordinance under suspension of the rules, requiring 3 complete and separate readings. And I'd certainly be able to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions from Mike before we open the public hearing?
Jim, this is a really timely presentation of this, given last week's event, but do we have like an overhead view, like from a drone or something that would show how the proposed revision in the floodplain close to Highway 95 and Highway 80 intersection, how last week's event, was it within the parameters? We know that?
I mean, I believe it was. I don't remember a whole lot of flooding towards that intersection. I think the majority of the flooding occurred in Hog Creek area, as well as the typical areas that we encounter flooding around Bridge Street and the Joseph Street playfields around that area. But as far as I know, we didn't really encounter a whole lot of flooding in that area. And that's really reflective of the floodplain boundary once the letter of map revision gets approved by FEMA, and the remapping and the technical data that we ended up submitting probably reflects pretty accurately what the new boundaries will be. I think the error before was there was a railroad bridge that was affiliated with the Highway 95 previous alignment before the south couplet, that they were factoring that into the technical data in order to map the floodplain in that area, and so that's since been removed. And that was causing, in the data, a substantial obstruction and upstream, I guess, expansion of the floodplain, and that'll be reduced as part of that.
This picture here is the original one, right?
This is the original, yeah.
Right, so it doesn't show
Yeah.
how much it's been cut back in that where your pointer is right now.
It doesn't. I believe Bill gave an update a number of months ago that showed what the revised floodplain would be in that lot more detailed of a presentation, but.
It seems like right now, there's no structures in that area. I mean, they've all been torn down for new construction, and it would be, I was just interested if that did fill up with water or if it drained as planned, because that's a significant flooding event.
Yeah.
We did.
And that area is prime for redevelopment. I mean, we've got stubs and we've got the triangle that will soon be constructed upon, and so it'll really help to get the floodplain removed from that area with the redevelopment that's going to happen. So,
Bill had something to add to that?
Just in my observations that evening, I did not see any flooding in that area. It looked like the floodwaters were held within the channel, with the exception of Berman Creekside Park. The park does get water within it there on the south side of the channel, but we didn't see really anything north of the Troy Highway. As Mike indicated, there was that old concrete plant bridge that was really the flow obstruction that was removed in the mid to late 90s, but we didn't see anything really happening other than Berman Creekside Park in that area.
Thank you.
Might just add, and just to echo that, saw a lot of the flooding and at its peak throughout the night, and that's right. Just echoing what Bill said, that's what we saw, and also echoing what Mike had indicated. Hog Creek was really where we saw a lot of the flooding that was the most visible and impactful that we really hadn't seen in the past due to the nature of the high water event that we had. But in that particular area of the South Couplet, yeah, we didn't see the flooding in that area.
Excellent, thank you.
Other questions before I open up a public hearing? Thank you, Michael. I guess we'll go ahead and, with that, I'll open that public hearing, 8:25. Anybody that would like to speak on the floodplain ordinance, please step up and state your name and address and let us know what you think. Seeing nobody rush the podium, I will close the public hearing and turn it over to council.
Well, it seems like it's mostly just a housekeeping exercise, a lot of modification and consistency with definitions. And like I said at committee, I'm gleeful to see that part of the ordinance is regulation of docks for passenger and cargo lading and offloading. We're ready for it. But seeing nothing else, I'd make a motion to approve the ordinance under suspension of the rules and requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and it be read by title and published by summary.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Art and a second by Ann to approve the ordinance under the suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings and then be read by title and published by summary. Start to roll with Catherine.
Aye.
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 Okay, we'll move forward on. I will read the ordinance now. Ordinance number 2019-2. Okay, ordinance number 2019-02, an ordinance of the City of Moscow, Idaho, a municipal corporation of the State of Idaho, providing for the amendment of Moscow City Code, Title 4, Chapter 5, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable and providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from the date of its passage, approval, and publication according to law. Thank you. We will move on to item number 8, folks, which is, thank you, Mike, proposed lot division 860 North Lincoln. We have Leah with us this evening. Leah Carlson, how are you this evening?
Doing well. Nice to see you all. Okay, so we just have a quick lot division to have you all review. It's located at 860 North Lincoln Street, and the proposal is to divide one existing lot into 3 individual townhouse lots. And the lot is located on Lincoln Street at the corner of Lincoln and Vandal Drive. The existing lot's 11,380 square feet, and the proposal is to split it into 3 of 5,120 square feet, 2,591 square feet, and 3,669 square feet. And the subject property is located within the R3 zoning district. In this zoning district, townhouse lots require a minimum square footage of 2,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 20 feet. And it's kind of hard to see on here, but all 3 lots do meet these 2 requirements. So all 3 are over 2,000 square feet and wider than 20 feet. So last week at the Public Works Finance Committee meeting, this was heard. It was a public meeting, and staff recommends approval of the proposed lot divisions with no conditions. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Questions for Leah? This was in front of Public Works and Finance last week.
Yeah, it was, we did have a couple of residents speak. They were mostly concerned with issues not related to the lot line adjustment, but with development issues subsequent to that, which is really not what we're talking about. But the concerns were that the streets aren't paved and there would be increased traffic, and that could be a concern for the future. So that'll be something we'll want to be looking at when development actually occurs. But at this time, it's only the lot line adjustment, and I see no reason to deny it.
Okay. Any questions for Leah?
With that, I would move to approve the lot line division with no conditions.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion by Jim and a second by Art to approve the lot division request with no conditions. I'll start the roll with Ann.
Aye.
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 Okay, it's done. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to reports. So one thing I want to start before I turn it over to council, on reports, I want to tell appreciation of what the streets department did during that flooding, what our first responders did, both fire department people as well as our police. Man, it was a mess last Tuesday, and what a great job. You know, nobody saw it coming, and there it was. And so I thought, what a wonderful job everybody did. Yeah. Everybody. That's a big deal for us. With that, I'll start with you, Brandy.
You know, I had planning and zoning, and I think Wendy covered everything in her annual report. I might just add that when they were talking about the direction that we had provided, the question did come up about the elementary and secondary schools, and I let the commission know that that was a part of original motion back in May, that when I had made the motion that included that, so that it's not entirely out of the blue, but that what we looked at in that survey, which was what we were discussing that night, was specific to colleges and universities. So I just wanted to add that my comment back in May, but other than that, we talked about all the things that she presented tonight with the RV and floodplain and everything else. So that's all I have.
All right, very good.
Brandy?
Catherine?
Yes.
Has there been much discussion yet about the short-term rentals, or what's prompted that?
No, that hasn't come up yet, so I think maybe that's a little perhaps on Wendy's mind, or maybe she's talked about it with Mike. I'm not sure. Bill?
The commission has been talking about that subject for about the last year, kind of off and on. It hasn't been a hot burning topic, but you saw the discussion came up over at City Pullman here just recently. Primarily, one of the concerns has been a little bit of the inequity in how the code addresses those types of uses, whether they're owner occupied or not. And that's something that the commission wanted to take a look at and make sure that the treatment of those uses was equitable. So in the instance, if it was an owner occupied unit where they were going to have rooms for rent, it does require a conditional use permit. Whereas if it's just the rental of an entire unit for 2 days, 1 day duration, we don't regulate the duration of rental of a dwelling unit. And so that would not require a conditional use permit. So the commission feels there's a little inequity in how that is addressed in the code today, and they wanted to explore that topic.
Thank you.
Catherine?
Sustainable Environment meets tomorrow night. There'll be a presentation by Shirley Brock from the Citizens for Integrity and Accountability, and she's going to present on fracking and what's been happening in Payette and Boise, and educate kind of the Sustainable Environment Commission about that topic.
Okay, Jim.
The 1912 Center Facilities Committee met last week, and there's big things coming on with the next floor of the 1912 Center, and I'm not going to steal Jenny's thunder. She's going to be bringing that to committee in the first committee meeting in May, but they have completed a design for that floor, and it looks fabulous. So I'm not going to be a spoiler for that. That's going on. Also, this last week, we received 3 letters from some students at Lena Whitmore Elementary. And if you guys would be agreeable to that, I'd like to go through those letters and have a little discussion about those, so that those young people know that we have seen these letters and we have considered them. Is everybody cool with that?
And is that the only way they came? They didn't email them at all?
No, not that I'm aware of. They were only in my mailbox, and I think other people as well. There are a number of different topics. One person named Gunner, they don't have last names or anything, was interested in the Moscow Mountain Trails and the trail system up there, which is great. But Gunner, I'm going to have to say that that's outside the city of Moscow, so we really don't have any authority over that. Although that's a great feature, and I don't know if anybody else has any input on that, but I wanted him to know that we do think they are great, and The bicycle trails and hiking and possibilities for cross-country skiing up there are wonderful recreational opportunities, but as the city of Moscow, we don't have any authority over that. So he needs to talk to the county about that.
I might add there, Jim, for Gunner, that the organization Mamba is a nonprofit made of volunteers and landowners who do work to maintain the trails, and we're instrumental in establishing them in the first place. And so they are other ways to assist if you care about the trails, is to help that group either with volunteer hours or fundraisers or donating.
Yeah, that's a good comment. It's the Moscow Area Mountain Bike Association, and Paradise Creek Bicycles Downtown has maps for that and contact information. Gunner?
If I may? We have been approached by that group to see if we wanted to allow them to construct trails on the 20 acres that the city owns at the top of Moscow Mountain. So we're going through and evaluating that, and we'll likely be bringing something forward to you in the next month or so.
Oh, thank you, Gary. The next letter was from Lila, and her concern was the absence of sidewalks in a lot of the routes to school. And that's something that we've thought about. We know there's 56 miles of missing sidewalks inside the city of Moscow, and we're working to get those taken care of. So thank you for your concern about that, and we're not ignoring that. We're trying to address that in a number of different ways. Someone named Taylor from the same school also has a concern about people bringing their personal animals into the animal shelter and disturbing the animals that are in there in sort of animal jail. And I don't know what we can do about that. I think people maybe are shopping for another animal or an additional animal, and they might bring their pet, but I don't know. I think the security at the animal shelter is pretty good. Anybody else have any comments on that?
I think it's a good suggestion that she should contact the animal shelter directly and make that suggestion and see if that's something that they could consider as a rule that they might implement for reduce the stress of the animals that are there and perhaps the staff and volunteers that work there. But I think that would probably be the most likely avenue.
So I guess we're
for
encouraging
considering
Taylor
that
to go to the
suggestion.
animal shelter and ask them if they can't mitigate that situation with their procedures there, eh? All right, those are the three letters that we had, and thank you. It's great to see young people addressing an interest in civics, and thank you again. That's all I have.
Yeah, Moscow Arts Commission met and are working to get the whole forum for Art Walk set up and ready to go. That's quite an endeavor, pretty much a citywide adventure that we go through. So they're getting that set up, and they're also looking to provide poetry as part of the Art Walk as well. Perhaps on one of the stages, not the main stage, but at one end or the other, where they won't be overridden by the music at the same time. Got the Washington, Idaho Symphony performing this time around, which will be great. Also, they're working on putting together an RFQ for public art at the C and Main intersection, that little triangle piece there where used to be a tree, but now it's going to have public art there instead. So they're looking to solicit proposals for that one and boost the budget from $30,000 to $40,000 to attract some higher quality artwork, perhaps. Also, looking to collaborate with the URA when we finally get around to redoing the hardscape of Main Street to put public art at 1st and Main and 6th and Main. So they'll be looking to work with the URA when we get around to actually doing some of those projects. And they're looking to try to find a chainsaw artist to take an approach to the tree stump in East City Park that Parks and Rec left behind and do some sculpting on that, which I think would be kind of fun. So they're looking around for a chainsaw dude for that. URA meets this Thursday at the lovely hour of 7 a.m. right here. So anybody interested in that should show up and learn some new stuff there, too. And that's what I have.
Care, yeah.
PBEC had a communications subcommittee meeting this week, which Tyler and I both serve on, and we were looking at a survey that was put together by a U of I applied economics professor, and it was basically just looking at gauging how people feel, not about the specific alternatives that are being proposed, but about different factors that might be a part of that. So looking at comparisons for how people would feel if there was a change in their water bill, what they might want in a potential solution, and then just some general questions like how much water do you think you use, that kind of a thing. So I think that is supposed to be deployed hopefully end of the month. Was that right, Tyler?
Yeah, they're hoping to get some responses while students are still here, so, yeah, over the next few weeks.
Thank you, yeah, and that will just be collected at I believe at the farmer's market, a couple dates hopefully, and then in front of a lot of the grocery stores. And we have confirmation from a few of those as well. And then Transportation Commission met this week, and there was, I guess last week, it's Monday, huh? There was discussion about it's been an ongoing discussion about what they want to be looking at in the next year. And they narrowed that down, so they wanted to be looking at e-bikes and scooters, the impact of new development, and then downtown parking. And so there was a really great discussion about what it might look like for that. And it sounded like the idea might be sort of phasing it, so collecting some quantitative data, then some qualitative, and doing some focus groups, some public comment periods, and then looking at what solutions might be feasible to implement. And so I'm excited to see that happen as well. Yeah.
I had mentioned to the chair of Transportation Commission that Pathways has also been in discussion. I was their liaison last year about the e-bikes and scooters, and they were off doing their own research that they might want to coordinate, which he said he was going to contact the chair of Pathways. But just so you're aware, since you're on Transportation Commission, that they've already been looking into that quite a lot too. So it could be a good collaboration between the two commissions.
That's great. I can pass it along. Thank you. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Ann. A couple of things for me on the 3rd, why the A Safer Moscow group met. We met at the boardroom at Gripman and talked about the police bond that's before us and some of the work that they're doing, some of the signs you're seeing around town with that, which is pretty nice. And with that leads into tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, I'll be down at Best Western at 7 in the morning, as will Gary with Chief Fries, to have coffee with a cop and talk about it in the morning. And then in the evening, from 5 to 7 tomorrow at the Best Western, we're going to have an open house discussion on the bond itself and for the entire community. It's been publicized in the paper. So, of course, any counselors, of course, are welcome to come to those functions as well to see what they're like. And I want to talk briefly about MIAC because, and I'm going to let Gary talk about the cleanup day on the 19th, but our MIAC kids will be a part of that cleanup on Friday. So those of you who want to see some of the MIAC kids in action, they will be there. So that'll be kind of a fun thing so they can be visible throughout the community. Gary, you have anything for us?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we are having a citywide downtown cleanup on Friday, 2:30 in Friendship Square. Work for a couple of hours, and then if you're hungry, we'll have some pizza for you at the end of that. Also, we are still searching. I've been polling individual council members. A couple of them I haven't gotten to yet to see if anybody would like to go to the CETA annual meeting, which takes place on Thursday evening at the Clearwater River Casino Conference Center. Gina's out of town. Jim, who's a former liaison, was busy. Art, who's a former liaison, was busy. I was just about to get to the people who weren't former liaisons, but if anybody is open on Thursday night, you'd be more than welcome to attend on the city's behalf.
I think they'll feed you, too.
Yeah, they will. There's dinner included, so. But if you could, the deadline for RSVP was today. I'm sure they'll still take them for the first hour or so tomorrow morning, but if you have an interest, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. Secondly, we have on next Tuesday night, we have 5 o'clock actually, 5:30, we have our annual strategic planning session in this chambers. Again, we'll have a light dinner, and we will be presenting the status of the current strategic plan and proposing from a staff standpoint what issues that we see coming up, and then the council, of course, will have their discussion and hopefully direct staff on that, how they wish that to go as well.
Is that from 5 to 7, Gary? A week from tomorrow?
Yes, sir, it is, 5 to 8, actually.
Okay, 5 to 8.
We also have ASU I-Town and Gown. The location is still to be determined, but that is next Thursday, the 25th, starting from 5 till 6, 5:30 to 6:30. So,
There'll be information out for council.
yeah,
so we'll know
Lori just
where it's gonna be.
indicated she believes it'll be at the new president's quarters. So we'll see if we will verify that. And then, of course, as the mayor indicated, we have every Wednesday afternoon, early evening at 5:30, we have been giving factual presentation regarding the bond election, which again is going to take place May 21st for our new police facility, as well as the remodel of the old facility for engineering, community development, and then hopefully moving information systems downtown to the Mann Building. But we've been giving that presentation at 5:30 every Wednesday afternoon or early evening, and then Chief Fry is on hand to take people around for a tour of the facility. So it's just getting cranked up. We didn't have a lot of turnout last week. We hope for better turnout this week, but we continue to present to try and answer any questions that we have.
Gary, Zach made a video of that tour. Is that available on the city website yet?
I believe it is, but Chief Fry actually
That's the one that she
narrates a
did.
video.
It's
Yep.
on there. It's a 14-minute video, Jim.
It's on the city,
Yeah,
it's
it's on the
available. Okay,
website.
cool.
It has been.
Because I want to direct people to that as an
14
Yeah, I'd
minute
encourage
video.
anybody who can come to that tour, though, even in the video, you don't get the feel of how cramped the building is until you tour it.
Well, like what I've said all along, is most people don't even know what the inside of our police department looks like, and that's.
That's a good thing for
that's-
us.
Well, you either have the victims or you got the bad guys, and so, or our officers, and so that's kind of how it is. Okay, anything else, Gary?
Nothing, sir, thank you.
Well, with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn, folks.
So moved.
Yes. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're closed at 8:47. Thank you, everybody.